What if the most profitable companies out there were also the ones doing the most good for the world? Now, it might sound a little too good to be true, but it's actually the core idea behind a business philosophy called creating shared value. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive into how this one concept is starting to change the way we think about the entire relationship between business and society.
But before we can even get to the solution, we've got to understand the problem. And a study out of South Africa really frames it perfectly with this one single powerful question. Does society believe that business is prospering at the expense of the community? This question right here is at the absolute heart of the debate. So let's unpack that.
First up, let's explore that friction, the tension that exists in the real world between companies and the communities where they actually operate. Okay, so to really get a handle on this tension, let's take a look at a place like South Africa. They have one of the highest Gini coefficients in the world, which is just a technical way of saying the gap between the haves and the have-nots is massive. Then you add a nearly 30% unemployment rate on top of that, and you've got a recipe for serious social unrest. So it's really no surprise that communities are looking more and more to big businesses to step in and provide the services that the government just can't or won't. And this image, wow, it really brings those stats to life, doesn't it? When public services fall short, it makes sense that people look to the biggest, most visible players around them, and that's often large companies. This isn't just some abstract academic issue. It is a daily reality for millions of people. So, if the old way of doing business is creating all this friction, what's the alternative? Well, the answer seems to lie in a totally different way of thinking, moving away from just simple charity and shifting towards a much more strategic approach. And that's what we call shared value. For years and years, the go-to has been what's called corporate social responsibility, or CSR. You can think of it as a company responding to what society needs, usually by writing a check or making sure they're compliant with regulations. But here's the thing. The big criticism, which the research really highlights, is that it's often totally disconnected from what the business actually does. It can end up feeling like just another expense, or worse, just a bit of greenwashing. And right here, this is where you can really see the huge difference. Think of traditional CSR as this kind of separate do-good department over on the side. But creating shared value, or CSV, well, that's a whole new ballgame. It's all about finding ways to create both economic value and social value at the same time. It's not a side project, it's baked right into the core business strategy. And this quote from Volton and his colleagues just hits the nail on the head. Shared value is a form of strategic CSR seen to provide tangible benefits to the firm. The keywords there, strategic and tangible benefits. We're talking about a real, measurable win-win here. Look, if you want to boil it all down to one simple idea, it's this. The goal of creating shared value is not to just slice up the existing economic pie differently. It's about being innovative and finding ways to grow a much bigger pie for everyone involved, the business, its employees, and the entire community. All right, that's enough of the theory, right? Let's see what this actually looks like in the real world. We've got a fantastic case study to look at from the South African retailer Food Lovers Market. So meet Food Lovers Market. They're a big deal in South Africa, one of the largest privately owned retailers in the country with about 17,000 employees. So they are a major player, and they're deeply connected to the communities they serve. And just listen to this quote. This is from their group HR and sustainability executive, Andrew Milson. He's talking about their big sustainability initiative, Earth Lovers, and he says, it's not a strategy. It is quite simply the way we do business. It's a philosophy about how we see ourselves in the world. Wow, that's not just a mission statement on a wall, that's their whole reason for being. And they don't just talk the talk. They've built this entire philosophy around 5 core pillars. It's a holistic approach that looks at their family of colleagues, their suppliers, their customers, the planet itself, and their broader communities. This is the framework for basically everything they do. Okay, so how does this actually translate from a list of pillars into real-world action? Let's break down a couple of their specific programs to see how it works. Let's start with their suppliers. See, one of the really big ideas in CSV is that a company's supply chain can be this incredible engine for social good. Food Lovers Market's Seeds of Change program is a perfect example of this. Instead of just hunting for the cheapest possible supplier, they're actively partnering with and mentoring these small local businesses that are already trying to make a positive impact. They're not just buying products, they're investing in a whole different kind of food system, one that's more sustainable and more fair.
And look, this isn't just some small, feel-good project. The numbers are serious. As of January 2025, Food Lovers Market had purchased over 7.4 million rand worth of products from these small suppliers. That is a huge investment that's directly creating jobs and building up local communities.
And this is what that number looks like. These are the faces behind that 7.4 million rand. Real people, real entrepreneurs, whose businesses are now plugged into a major retail supply chain. This is how you create local wealth.
So, it's not just about their supply chain. Food Lovers Market is also building out this whole network of community partners to tackle some of South Africa's biggest social issues. Take their work with Food Forward SA to fight hunger. By using their stores and their huge customer base, they can raise money and, just as importantly, raise awareness for local feeding programs.
And the scale here is just wow. Through these partnerships, they helped provide the equivalent of 3.5 million meals in the last year alone. That's a direct, tangible impact on one of the most basic human needs, making sure people have enough food to eat.
Okay, so we've seen the theory, and we've seen a fantastic real-world example. For this last part, let's kind of pull back and look at the big picture, the benefits of this whole approach, and, the very real challenges that still exist. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, the research is pretty clear. When it's done right, creating shared value is a genuine win-win. For businesses, you're looking at a stronger brand, happier employees, and a real leg up on the competition. And for society, it means we get more sustainable, more effective solutions to some of our toughest problems. But, and this is a big but, it is not easy, not by a long shot. As Food Lovers Market will tell you themselves, they're dealing with huge challenges every single day. Massive economic pressures, infrastructure you just can't rely on, for energy or waste disposal, incredibly complex supply chains, and honestly, sometimes just a lack of consumer awareness. Trying to create shared value means you have to navigate these real-world problems constantly. And all of this brings us to our final question. And it's a really big one for the future of business, for the future of capitalism, really. As more and more companies try to find that sweet spot between being profitable and having a real purpose, you have to ask, is creating shared value the new bottom line?